Hi everyone, it is Sunday evening just before the market opens in the UK and 4th of October. So I'm starting with gold. I want to have a look at commodities, and I'm just noticing this key level where gold could still head lower. So from last week I sort of maintained the same idea, although the daily has sort of broken back up above that 1900 level, and the weekly now is set up with a bullish candle. It's going to be the highs and lows, this contradiction with the monthly, and it's really the same actually in the currency analysis I just did, where that monthly still needs to continue down to certain key levels, ideally to almost satisfy a minimum retracement on the monthly. I beg your pardon. The weekly is looking nice and bullish. That wants to go one way, although it is almost in a technical downtrend with lower highs and lower lows. And the daily has pulled back into a really nice area to continue down. So part of me would feel much happier seeing gold come back down, connect with 1800, and then resume. And so that's something I'll be keeping an eye out for. So what I'm looking for in the coming days is to see if price does actually start to break and head lower Monday and Tuesday. Failing that, if it continues obviously up, if it breaks this previous high, then that downtrend is now negated, and forget about it. Then I'm going to start looking for then the market's either going to trend sideways or it's going to go up, but it means that I have to reassess it. And so if it starts to break the highs here, I'm going to start looking for long opportunities. At the same time, my plan A is to look for shorting opportunities from this point down to 1800. Going through onto silver. Silver is also set up actually bearishly in isolation on the daily, but on the weekly it's come back down to weekly support. It's almost musical in the way that it's kind of doing this. On the monthly it is still overextended, and a move down towards 21 and 19 again makes more sense, as well as Fibonacci retracement. So again, there's more evidence. It's just a 60-40 thing where I'd really like to see these head lower before they resume their uptrends, but they're showing some bullishness on the weekly. And so I'm prepared. My plan A is to expect them to head lower before heading higher. But if they do start trending higher, then I'll start looking for buy opportunities. But I need to see a significant move from where they are now before I would start looking for those entries. Having a look at a few others here. So copper, you can see had a very interesting, a big significant drop and a big recovery on the Thursday and the Friday, with a little bit of a bullish candle here, but it has now tapped the previous highs, and it also looks pretty good as holding above support there. So this is kind of what I would really like to see gold and silver do. Copper's done it, and so we'll see if it can manage to hold its own and then push through on that. Platinum, much more bearish. It's also come back into resistance and potential bearish candle here. It's also a downtrend on that weekly, and it's also potentially a swing high on the monthly. So overall, this is looking much more likely to head lower in isolation at this point. And so we'll see how that goes. If gold and silver push higher, that could potentially pull that up as well, but that is indicating that it's not ready to go there yet. And I spoke last week as well about Palladium being just the nicest kind of longer term trend, and again it's set up with a bullish candle here. So overall, my longer term over the next couple of months, I do expect this to break through this level and start to head higher, but it's not really there yet. I do also anticipate that once it gets above this level, then I expect it'll start to trend in a much more clearer, well-behaved fashion, and then become very attractive in terms of money-making opportunities for traders. Looking at Brent Crude, so Brent Crude finally kind of caved in. Took a while. It's now confirmed kind of a nice downtrend on the weekly. It's got a nice big drop on the daily, so that's all looking good. Started to drop below 40 now, and now I'm going to be looking for shorting opportunities on oil as it heads down towards 30 is a pretty achievable goal. Next key level I've got here is 30. So monthly looking to head lower on oil. Of course, if for some reason it randomly climbs back up above that, that's fine. But the overall trend is now beautiful. It's got a downtrend on the daily, it's got a downtrend on the weekly, and it's got a downtrend on the monthly. So in other words, there's a beautiful correlation between the daily, the weekly, and the monthly, which is what I really want to see on the currencies. It's what I want to see on the indices, and it's what I want to see on the other commodities such as gold, for example, that have that conflicting one. Oil's the only one that's got its stuff together, basically. So here looking at West Texas Intermediate, that's got to break the previous low here, but overall it's the same idea. So my expectation is the same as Brent's, is to see oils heading lower. They're starting to really unfold in that monthly fashion. I've been talking about this now for 3 or 4 months now. I mean, it must be getting old, but certainly looking for it to break the low here to see it start to pick up momentum. Okay, so once it breaks the lows here, then my expectation is to see it start to pick up that momentum. Brent has kind of led the way, and this is what I'll be looking for this week. And then we'll see whether if we had some weird reaction and suddenly prices climb for some reason, anything unexpected, but the trend, the flow of price at this point in time is largely down, and therefore I do anticipate ideally some good money making opportunities this week. So that is really top of my list in terms of that. And that's really it in having a look at a lot of these commodities. I'll have a quick look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. So overall, obviously, my longer term for these is to the upside. The weekly isn't really moving as much as it should be on Bitcoin. Let's have a look. These are digital commodities. And Ethereum, okay, they're treading water at the moment. So for whatever reason, they're not very happy to continue on upwards. In fact, they look like they're potentially going to break and head lower. That may just well be that they want to come back down to these monthly levels of support, test those levels before resuming the uptrend, which again would be very similar to silver and gold, and so that makes sense to me. They're not looking as bullish as they should be to continue this week to the upside, so I'll be surprised if they do. I'm expecting them to go either sideways or down would be my first guess, and then in the longer run to start recovering back up from that point. So digital commodity is not looking as appealing this week either. And that's it. Nothing else jumping out at me.